Okay, so it looks like we're live. So hello, Facebook. Welcome back to Be on the Cloud. We'll just go right and introduce ourselves. I am Tanya Hilt, founder of Cloud Business Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp. And we will go clockwise. Stacey, you're up.
Hi, I'm Stacey Stanley Young, founder of Stanley Young Business Strategies in the heart of Canada, right in Manitoba.
Awesome, thank you. And Jan, you're up next.
I'm Jan Brose-Durang, owner of JBD Bookkeeping Services based in Toronto.
Awesome, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Jessica.
Jessica Fox from Florida Virtual Bookkeeper in, guess where? Florida.
Awesome. Yes, anybody that says after they hear your company, where are you from? Yeah, maybe you don't want them as a client. No, just kidding. Anyway, so we were kind of talking beforehand, and this is something that kind of popped up that I know is part of our, at least in Ontario, and I know they've talked about it federally for Canada, and something that I know is going on in California right now is the try to push to a 4-day work week. I know other countries, I think Netherlands has a 4-day work week, something like that, and they've been able to do it successfully. But I think that's a great topic to talk about, and what you guys think of it, and for productivity or how you think it would work, speculations, anything you've heard of other provinces or states who have attempted to do that. So yeah, anybody heard anything?
I haven't heard states per se, but I know of some companies experimenting with it. And there's this concept that I find really cool. And even though I have a micro team, so I don't consider myself like, one that can really talk about it, I am trying to implement it with my tiny team. And that is the ROW concept, results-oriented workspace. I don't care when you work, how long it takes you, or what your schedule is, as long as you are producing.
Right.
And that shift of mentality, I find to be very healthy and refreshing. I know that if I was an employee, I would find that refreshing, because I know people, my husband included, where he gets his work done in a lot less than the 40 hours per week he's expected to work. And many times he's just there twiddling his thumbs. It's not that he's not being productive, it's that he ran out of things to do. And sometimes that does happen. And I know that in the United States, I don't know if this is the same in Canada, there's a very negative mentality that, in my opinion, is very unhealthy, where people have to work so long, so many hours, for so many years, that they don't get to enjoy life until they retire. And by then they're too old, too tired, too sick to really enjoy life. So I see that it could improve mental health if people had that opportunity to have more work-life balance.
Well, absolutely. And I just posted in the Facebook chat kind of the article that really thought about that. And that's exactly why California is pushing to it. So they're not pushing to do 40 hours in 4 days. They're pushing to a 32-hour work week instead of a 40-hour work week, so that they have more time for that life balance and to go surfing, as Californians do, apparently.
It's a big state. Not everybody's near the beach, but those that do, they do like surfing.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, and I absolutely agree from that perspective. And by the way, Diane, hello, welcome. We're live.
Just saw that.
Yes, we're going back to live.
Just go online and eat my lunch as we chat.
Well, you know what? So our new format is that as of last week, we decided that we're going live from 3:45 Eastern. So that's what 12:45 your time. Yeah. And then so we're only going to go live for half an hour. We just do a quick introduction. We have a topic that we talk about, and then the before and after is all off camera.
Okay.
So yes, so feel free to put your camera on if you would like to eat or whatever, like, or camera off. We get it. So, and then you just have to hang out here, because then we'll be off camera in 25 more minutes or offline, whatever. So anyway, yeah. So we're talking about the shift to the 4-day work week, because I know Ontario's talked about it, federal's talked about it, using it in their platforms, and California is kind of doing that right now. So yeah, so Jessica, anyway, yes, I agree with the mentality, because again, here we're deadline driven. That's how I run my team. I don't care how many hours like you work. Let's just get ourselves done. And if you get your stuff done and you want to work a 20-hour work, I'm okay with that because we're deadline driven. And I know stuff is being done other than during tax time and whatever, but we've set our business up to be that way so that if we all want to walk away, no problem. There's no emergencies in bookkeeping other than potentially a payroll issue.
So,
But yeah.
So in my business, I'm self-employed, so I work 7 days a week. However, the bookkeeping work seems to get done in 4 days. And on day 5, I'm working on my own business. So while I am doing a 5-day work week, to the outside world, it looks like a 4-day. And if I weren't self-employed, I'm not sure that 5th day would happen. So I can see that being that balance. And I had a colleague walk in the other day and I asked how their weekend was. And they said, I was really selfish and I took time for myself. And I'm like, of course you took time for yourself. That's what you were supposed to do. It's your weekend. And so I think it would help with the belief that we all have to be workaholics. So I'm hoping it will offer a little bit more work-life balance. It concerns me a little bit because I think there'll be a lot of people going, I don't mind working 32 hours, but I still get paid for 40. And I think some businesses will struggle with that. And I think some employees will struggle with that. We all live in a society that we live paycheck to paycheck, right?
And that brings up the other part of it, because when I read through everything, nowhere does it say they will get a 40-hour pay. So salary people, yes, you're right. How do you adjust that? But then the hourly people are going to be like, that's time taken away from me now.
Yeah.
Now,
Right?
if you work a 35-hour work week, and now they turn around and say, well, we'll drop it down to 32 and you work 4 days, score. Like, I think people will feel as if they're winning.
Right. Or you do, again, those people that are working 40, like that's what they're saying in California. It's, like, again, they're talking about going down to 32 hours. Some companies have gone to 40 hours. Obviously, if it becomes, state law or federal law, that's going to have to change. But, if you're going 40 hours from 5 days to 4 days and working longer hours, that's great. You're still getting the same thing. But again, let's go back to Jessica's point about the efficiency. If you're working 12-hour days, like that's pretty exhausting, or 10-hour days. I did that in the call center, and I'll tell you, they did not get lives ago. They didn't get the same type of, I wasn't as enthused. I'm just like, oh my God, are we almost done yet? Like, it's been a long day.
We know, like, our office hours really are 8 to 4:30. So we're working a 7.5-hour day. And there are times where if I could just sit down and keep working until 6:30 and then stop and have supper, I get more done in that hour and a half, 2 hours, than I would if I say, oh, well, I'll stop for supper and then try to come back. Again, I go back to, I'm self-employed, so I would come back to work. And I don't know how many nights I go for supper and then start walking down the stairs because my office is in the basement and go, no, I just can't. Or whereas if I would have just stayed, I probably could have gotten a little bit more done. So maybe there is something to it. The other side of that is, it's great that the government turns around and says, you can put this in, but then they also have to back that up with daycare.
Yes.
Right? Hours for parents are often dictated by daycare. You want me to work a 10-hour day? I'm willing to work the 10-hour day, except my daycare is only open for 9 or what have you.
Yep. That's a huge other issue. So there has to be, again, that opportunity. Like, again, it has to be looked at as that flexibility. Yeah. And it's interesting. It says here that Americans pre-pandemic, and this is really interesting, and I'd love to hear Jessica agrees with this too, because I'd not heard of this before. So I don't know if it's, again, they're just talking North America and including Canada in, or just the States, but it says pre-pandemic, Americans put in more hours on the job than people in other comparable nations. When millions of positions went remote in the spring of 2020, the length of the US workday increased by almost 50 minutes. So that's
I mean, I witnessed it in my own house with my husband because he switched to remote. And then the time that he used to spend commuting, he spent working.
Oh.
So
I
his
have-
workday got longer because he was no longer spending 30 to 45 minutes on the road twice a day.
I actually heard that from my girlfriend the other day. She said her husband, because she can't wait till her husband goes back into the office, and there's no talk of that happening anytime soon, because he had a schedule. He used to leave the house at 7:30, where he could help with kids or whatever, but at least he was out of the house. And then he left work at a particular time and was home, like he left work at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever, and was home a half hour later. Whereas now what's happening is he is downstairs in his office at 7:30, and he will work right up until 6 o'clock, and then he'll come upstairs to join them for supper, as opposed to, coming home and driving home. So the business has gotten an extra 2 hours, 3 hours a day out of him because of
Wow.
that. Oh,
Stu doesn't realize he's on Facebook world, or he doesn't care, right? He wouldn't care.
Stu does not realize that we are projecting. Yep. Mm-mm.
Live on Facebook. All of Facebook has seen that, Stu.
Yeah.
At least he's not making funny faces or the bunny ears behind you today.
Fair enough. I already look at it. I have 2 bunnies behind me already. And
There's the
I-
bunny ears.
if I sit in the right way, it can look like Easter Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. And and that's interesting because I know like Sandra, for example, would put in more hours, but we pay differently. We pay hourly. And people have asked me, like, why do we do that? There's actually, and we almost went salary last week to change it over. Okay, well, if we're going to do this and we're going to do that, let's just go to salary because it'll be less tracking. And then after we all had the weekend to think about it, we came back and the girls were, because I'm like, I don't care. You guys tell me. You guys are the one getting paid. And they both decided, no, they wanted to stay hourly because they feel that at least hourly, they can get, they were worried that they might end up working more hours without realizing it and end up going again against them. And I certainly don't want that to happen either, right? So I'm like, well, do we track? And then, okay, we pay this and that. And then we're like, there's just too much tracking. Let's just stay to the way that it is. But you're right. Sandra's done more hours, whereas if we were just in office and not working home, she wouldn't, but she's getting paid for those hours, right? She's either getting paid or banking or whatever. So she's getting it back. And it's not that I'm asking her, that's on her, on her choice. But yeah, if your salary and all of a sudden now you're going in and starting work at the same time you would have left home just because that's your habit, I can see how that's an issue. And you're staying in there until you're coming out because again, yeah, your salary, you wouldn't go in and do that extra hour in the office as much. And so I can see that being a problem leading to burnout.
And I used to work with a fellow who, in the last couple of years, he was working towards retirement. We were doing major construction. So he was the project manager and we're just renting out this last project and then he was going to retire. And he got to the point where he was working a 4-day work week. What he would do is he would work Monday and Tuesday. He'd take Wednesday off and he'd work Thursday and Friday. He loved it because he had 2 Fridays in a week. He says, it's great. I can relax in the middle and I come back on Thursday refreshed. He thought it was great. And he felt it increased his productivity. So there's something about it.
My husband, when he welded, he used to work for a company. They had 2 shifts. They had a 4-day work week shift and a 3-day work week shift. They all got, basically they worked the same hours. So you either worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or you worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or maybe it was Sunday, Monday, like a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whatever. It was 3 days anyway. So, and he was on the 3-day crew. That was the volunteer to go on there. And he volunteered because he got the same pay. And, yes, they did work a little bit longer, but I think at the end of it, it was like 2 hours shorter. But he's like, I've got 4 days off every week.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And we were at the point in our life where I worked from home. Elizabeth was still young and not in school. So it fit in really nice with the schedule. And some people are like that. But, you still need to kind of almost take into account, maybe there's somebody who doesn't want to do that. So I don't know, Jan, you've been quiet. And then Diane, hopefully you've been listening so that we can hear your opinions.
I actually do that in the summer. Like once May weekend happens, my office is closed on Fridays. I don't answer my phone. I don't respond to email. They all say we'll be open on Monday. And I've been doing that for years now because I find things aren't as hectic over the summer and it gives me long weekends. Whether, and so if I decide that I'm going to do some work on my business, that's my choice. But it's like I often don't. I'll actually usually, if the weather cooperates, I'll actually spend most of the time out in the garden.
Yeah.
Which is like one of my pastimes. But I'll just take a day and just relax and not think about anything. And I mean, and the biggest thing for me was turning off the phone.
Yeah.
So people, it's like, unless you're on my list that can get through at any time, you get voicemail.
Yeah.
That's very limited to actually my daughter, her husband, and Michael. Like anyone else, well, you can leave messages. I mean, I do get told. And I found that really helped with being a little not so exhausted. In the winter, I still often will close like on Fridays at noon, just because I find by the end of the week, I'm getting burnt out.
Yeah.
I'm not as young as I used to be. So it's like I do that. And I have one staff person. I am not a morning person at all. 10 o'clock is like pushing it for me, where she starts at like 6. So I get up and see all these messages of like, what about this and this? And, and that's fine. It works well. So it's like, it's like, but it's important. I think especially, for me, it's like over the winter and stuff, it's the lack of sun. So by now that it's getting warmer and it's sunny, like today has been gorgeous outside, that I'm wanting to take that time. A lot of times it's just ending up with like the grandchildren for like the day.
Yeah.
Which ends up a whole other exhaustion.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, Diane, do you have any thoughts on that if your clients are trying that, the 4-day work weeks or whatever, like as a general, like the salary, like anybody that does that or any thoughts?
I don't have anybody that does a 4-day work week in my, somewhat reduced portfolio now. I don't have that many clients anymore because I take a 4-day work week.
Right.
I haven't heard about it being any kind of movement or anything or trend that's happening out there with small businesses. Maybe larger businesses might look at that more than small business, but no.
Yeah. Well,
My
I
guess
know.
is my guess would be that the larger businesses have a little bit more flexibility and cash flow to be able to go, let's try. And if it doesn't work, oh well. But the smaller businesses, it would be like, okay, but the work still needs to get done.
Or work with call center shifts or whatever. Say, okay, so you've got things covered. You're right, the big ones. I know a lot of bookkeepers that do that in the summer, same thing like you, Jan. And, we tell clients that we're closed Friday at noon, and then it's up to the girls, right? It's up to the girls. Do they want to be here? Do they have work they can do? If not, they can leave at noon on Fridays. And so no real work gets done. But there's always that, flexibility just to know that, hey, if we want to work, it's quiet. And if not, we don't really book calls on Fridays. We just get clients used to the fact that, what, we probably won't call you back on Friday. It's not an emergency. Payroll, payroll's already processed for the week. It's Yeah. No, it's just, it was because like say California is looking to do this right now. And I know it's been brought up in our provincial, as one of the platforms. I think it's NDPs want to do that. Yeah, is it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And I mean, it was funny because I actually was sitting in on a Zoom call with the NDP on that. And I'm like, small businesses can't do it, especially retails, restaurants. They can't do it. Why are you imposing? Why do you want to do this? They can't do it.
Because then you'd have to hire somebody. If you're open 5, 6, 7 days a week, now you have to hire people to fill in those
Yep.
extra shifts. And you're right. So now there's more EI, more CPP, like more everything that has to be paid out on all of
Yeah.
that stuff. Unless you pay hourly, and now people are fine to only be paid for 32 hours instead of 40 or whatever. So there's a lot of things to take into account. And I think it would be harder for people to be able to get full time. You think you want people working more hours, not somebody who maybe is like, okay, well, I can't hire a student, so I'll hire one person that has my friend in he lives in Red Deer right now, but he did this when he was living on the East Coast. He had 7 jobs. So he gets there. There was not enough full time. There was a real shortage,
Yeah.
of people hiring if they didn't know. But he is the type of person that you don't tell me there's no work. So he went out, he had 7 jobs and he worked it out with everybody. I work this morning and this day, whatever. So it was set, a nice set schedule, but he was able to do a 40-hour work week that way. And he's just a hard worker. So, but a lot of people can't do that. So they can't say, okay, I can work for you on Fridays and I can work for you here on Mondays. And like, no, but I need you for Fridays. Because chances are that would be what would happen is you would need to have the people working on the Fridays.
Yeah.
Fridays or Mondays, but who's going to fill in, like,
or you can pick any day there. It just says a 4-day work week. It doesn't say that day off has to be a Friday or a Monday. We assume that because we would like that long weekend. But like I said, my former colleague who said he thought Wednesdays were great, right?
Right.
Maybe
it gives that extra day off to actually do something that you can't do during the week, right?
Right. And again, for parents, we were talking, again, as we come up to summer, anybody who has young kids who during the school year has before and after school care, and kind of deal with the PD days as they come, now has 8 weeks in the summer that they have to try to find care for the kids.
Do you think that the kind of some of the motivation behind this might be that people that had a day off through the week, whatever day it was, you're going to make all of your dentists, your doctor's appointments, anything that you're doing under personal business is going to happen on that day off, which will reduce the amount of time that people have off through the week to go and do those things.
Well, yes. However, let's play devil's advocate here. There's always those people who, they've got personal days or whatever. So they're still going to have the same number of vacation days that they might normally have booked these off for. Yeah. Or, let's look at.
But they'd actually get a vacation then. They wouldn't have used them up all through the year to go to special doctor's appointments and things like that. And, I look at a community like this, where if you're going to go see any kind of specialist, that's a day event here, because you got to get on a ferry to, and there's lots and lots and lots of communities across Canada that it's not in, they don't have a specialist in every little town and stuff.
Even here in Belleville, I've got a good, that's, when I was going through all my specialists for the surgery and all of that, you're right. It's a minimum half an hour. It's a minimum half a day. And that's if my appointment is at the hospital first thing in the morning and I leave here at like 6 o'clock to get there. It's only an hour drive, but it's still, you're right.
Yeah. My son had weekly appointments with the orthopedic surgeon, right? Or physiotherapy, or all of those things. And I would go to my boss and I'd say, I have to take the kid to the doctor's appointment. And I was fortunate. I have a partner who would also take time off. So I was only requesting half the days off. But if I had a day a week, I would absolutely turn around and say, okay, well, no, we have to arrange that day. Or I'd go to my boss going, here are the 4 days that I'm going to work because I have some appointments on this one day. And it would have made my life a whole lot easier.
And your employers in that sense too.
Well, in that particular case, I did work for a bit of a misogynistic jerk who didn't seem to understand that I had to take care of my family. And when you have a child who has to go through surgery, and I turn around and I say, my son is a disabled person. He's very capable, and we have minimal specialist appointments compared to other people? How, you know, how could they have made that work? And in some cases, you'll have one parent that says, I can't go to, like, I can't work outside of the home because I have all of the therapy and the specialists and whatnot. So it actually may help out in families in those types of situations.
Yeah, you'd have to do the math, but it could end up being a plus for both business and the individual.
Well, and it's interesting because I've just gone down to the bottom of here, and it does say, again, if California does this, and they'll be the first one to do this legislated. So chances are if other people do, they'll kind of follow suit.
Yeah.
But it says here that if enacted, hourly workers will receive their same 40-hour-a-week pay for working 4 8-hour days.
Mm.
So which means they're putting in less time, which means now let's look at it from the side of the small business.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard pass. I don't know that they're going to be able to get away with that for a small business. It's totally different if it's not paid, because the majority of small businesses, time off is not paid anyways.
Yeah.
Right. And for it to work for small business, it has to be a compromise of some sort. Okay, well, you know what? You get that one day off, but that's when all of your appointments are. We're not having you, have 2 hours off here, 3 hours off there, half a day here, another day here. So there's a compromise, at least for them, that they actually might have a more regular work week for their employees, and then therefore more productive work week.
Yeah, because every time you leave, if you leave in the middle of the day, then when you come back, so first off, you're not really working before because you're like, I can't start this because I know I have to leave soon. So you're not doing that stuff. You're like, I'm not going to get into this because I won't be in the right mind. And then when you get back, it's just like changing between tasks. There's that delay to get you right back in the proper mindset of, okay, now I'm focused.
Yeah.
So for
But
all of those,
it can't be paid because there's just no way that they could.
Well, and that's how I'm looking at going like, and especially in Ontario, they're looking at potentially 10 sick days that if the businesses have to pay 10 paid sick days to the employees. Oh, I've already
they're screaming about the 3 paid sick days that was enacted.
In BC, we have 5.
You have 5. Yeah, you've got 5. And this is where Ontario is looking to try and one up BC, I guess. So, look, they did 5. But again, what they're not looking at, and I sent a very, very long-winded note into my our MPPs and to CFIB, because I know CFIB is fighting against this. Again, the small businesses can't afford that. People are not going to use those for sick days. I don't have to worry here, but I know a lot of people, they're going to be like, I coughed today. I'm calling in sick. And then they go to the beach with their friends and whatever, because it's there. They're going to use them. They feel that it's vacation day and they're going to use them as that near the end, because they're like, if I don't use it, I'm going to lose it. And I know in BC, I know some bookkeepers who are saying that as of, and this was in March, so it was mid-March, there had already been 3 payrolls from a bi or a semi-monthly payroll that the owners had to not take because there was no money, because they were paying out all the staff for these extra 5 days.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I struggle with that when you hear that a company is running that tight that they don't are they really a viable company?
Well, right. But I mean, I wouldn't want to I actually worked it out, and it was about $6,000. Everything that they want to do in Ontario was about $6,000 per person per year.
Yeah, too much.
It would be forced on me. You know what? I'd rather say, okay, let's keep doing, the government will reimburse us for the sick days and we pay into a pool. Up my EI, up my CPP, add an additional payroll tax. Let me pay it like that and then have the government reimburse. Something like that, I think would work a lot better to take that burden off of the small businesses.
But there are restrictions in BC here for those 5 days. It's not like you can just go to the beach kind of thing. You get 1 day of that. But if you're gone more than 1 day, the employer has the right to ask for a doctor's note or some kind of proof that you have some kind of medical reason to be off.
You could have the Friday sickness, the Friday illness.
Yes.
Every Friday they're at the
rid of it.
beach.
You'd get away with it for one day, but yeah, but like it's not like a free for all. They've put quite a few restrictions
Did they? Okay.
in for the employer to have something to fall back on. So that kind of thing doesn't
Right.
happen so much, but yeah, I mean, it's still a burden. So they need to probably look at businesses a little bit differently. Like any company that's doing $400,000 or less is small business. It's a little bit too broad, right?
Yeah. And, you know, have some of the big businesses subsidize this or something like that. Again, I am all for people. When you're sick, stay home, don't spread it. I'm all for that. And that's exactly why we have worked with we weren't full-time remote, but that was exactly the thing that I had when we hired Sandra.
Yeah.
You're going to make more down there, but they're going to give you a hard time if you're sick. If you're working with me, once you've got this trained, first off, I don't want you coming in here sick. I don't want you coming in here if your child is sick. I don't want you coming in here if the roads are bad, but I don't want you worried about losing the pay. Work from home.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like we've got that because I don't want people working, coming in and working sick and spreading things and whatnot.
More of a tiered system, that you can't have, I think it's revenue over $400,000, right? Or I mean, actual net income over $400,000. Like that's craziness. So some kind of tiered system a bit more before you put that kind of burden on people.
Exactly. And I also think that the government, regardless of where you are, Canada, the States, whatever country, when you go in and make these financial decisions, you need to have a bookkeeper, not an accountant, not somebody with a finance degree. There needs to be a bookkeeper in the room.
Yeah, that really knows how to do the numbers and go, no.
Exactly. Anyway, so we are out of time. So thank you very much to everybody for joining.